Hey y'all, listen. I gotta share y'all all this stuff that's like in here because it's so much. Um, without giving y'all too much of the too much. But when I tell y'all the Lord be speaking and he be reminding you of stuff that you set in your heart to do 8 to 10 years ago, over 15 years ago. Um, I'll say that. It's not that stuff that you began to do, but it's stuff that you said in your heart, like, I'm gonna do this in my lifetime. I'm gonna do this one day. And the Lord will strategically begin to nudge you in that direction when the time is now, when the time is right? Okay. I'm gonna talk to y'all because I've been talking about one of these things with my husband for a long time, but I'm gonna save that one for another video. But today I'm gonna talk about we've been talking about dedication at my church, right? And one of the scriptures that our pastor had mentioned today came from Luke 14. Whenever I hear this particular thing, I'm always reminded about how we had to remember this scripture in ministry school. And like, this scripture is so powerful, but you know how you will remember something that happened almost 15 years ago, and then it's aligned with what's going on right now. Like, the seasons are like merging, right? You discern the time in the season. You discern the now, right? Okay, let me stop rambling. The scripture, Luke chapter 14, verses 28. And this is the scripture where it's talking about, for which of you intending to build a tower does not first count the cost, whether he is able to finish it, right? It keeps going on to say, lest after he has laid the foundation, he is unable to finish it. And those who see him began to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish it, right? Then it goes and say another example of this. It says, or what king, right, who is now about to go and make war, he's about to go to war against another king. It says, does not sit down first and consider, right, whether he is able to come against him, right, with 10,000. So it's saying that this king, he got 10,000. Did this king first consider that you got 10,000 and the person that you're about to come up against and make war with has 20,000? Did you consider? Did you count the cost? Right? And so let me just read it for y'all, because I just kind of paraphrased it. But it says, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Y'all, when I heard it, it just started triggering things for me. And so I just wanted to share this really quickly because, and I usually don't post on both of my pages. Like, I usually leave the personal and then my business separate, but I feel like somebody who follow me on my personal but don't follow me on my business needs to hear this, because a lot of this stuff is intertwining when it comes to individuals who are unable to finish what they're starting. You're unable to complete the thing that God called you to do. You're unable to make real progress. You're not seeing the results because you're not counting the cost, right? And I see people build all the time. In my line of work, I see people build all the time, and they lay some kind of a foundation, but eventually they're realizing, like, oh snap, I can't finish this. Let me pivot and do something else. Oh, maybe I'm not supposed to offer this service. Let me try something else. And so you're now hopscotching all over the place because you didn't sit down and count the cost first, but you kept launching all of this stuff in the name of trial and error. Okay. And so what does this got to do with anything? When it's talking about counting the cost, as administrators, people who are in the administrative professionals, we have been given a divine spiritual gift. It's literally a spiritual gift to administrate, to build, to manage, to lead, to govern that which is being built. Okay. For my kingdom administrators, we have been assigned and given the ability, the supernatural ability, strength, wisdom to build the kingdom, to manage the things of God, right? And so when we're talking about counting the cost, if you're building whatever it is that you're building, if you're building a family, if you're building a church, if you're building a ministry, if you're building a business, whatever you're building, it says whether he if did they sit down first and count the cost to see whether he had enough to finish it. Well, what does that mean? Did you first sit down? So that tells me that there's a first thing that you must do whenever you're trying to build anything. Whenever you are building, birthing out something, right? Whenever you have now, like, I got to do this, I need to birth out this thing, I need to first count the cost. I need to first consider what I'm getting myself into. I need to consider what I'm coming up against, right? And so with administration, we now have the ability, we've been given the ability to plan like other people haven't, right? We're able to strategically plan, we're able to strategically think, right? So now you can say, hey, I want to launch this new offer. And as an administrator, I'm not just thinking about the offer. My mind just went from the offer and I started thinking about 5 other things, including the offer, right? Because foresight. I now have to think ahead and consider the cost. Like, do we have the capacity to actually launch this thing and do it excellently? Oh, I want to build this brand. Oh, okay, that's good. Let me first consider and count the cost to see if you're going to be able to finish it. Because what we saw, right, in 2020, everybody started building and launching all of the things, right? And it was going well with them. The foundation seemed to be steady until 2023 came and 2024 came, and you realize a lot of the people who you saw in the forefront began to close down shop. They began to get quieter, and now you're like, where they at? People literally shut down their businesses because of mental health. And the Bible in Luke 14, it says whether they were able to finish it. Not because something was just bad, but it was because the foundation that you built it on, you didn't consider. You didn't count the cost, whether your consistent scaling was going to put you in a situation mentally, emotionally, financially. Like, you didn't consider all of the things that come with scaling. And so then these people close down shop. And then 1 year, 2 years later, you're seeing them now sending you another email because they never got rid of their email list. And so now they're doing something totally different. And you're like, who is this? Where do you come from? Why are you sending me emails? And they're doing something totally different, and you not even their target audience no more. And so you have to count the cost. You have to strategically think whenever it is that you're coming to build something. Whenever you feel like God is finna birth something out of you, you need to consider some things. And so with administration, those who have the gift of administration, they now understand foresight. They now understand the importance of preparation. When I was in high school, I was about to try out for the softball team. I actually didn't even try out. Did I try out officially? I don't know if I actually tried out or if I just did the what is it called? Conditioning with them. And so we had to learn this quote. And the quote was, proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I say that because as an administrator, we understand the importance of proper preparation and how it's needed to get the results that we are expecting. We understand the need to prepare for what is going to come up against us, right? We have a level of wisdom when it comes to managing people, managing time, managing our resources. We have been giving a level of wisdom when it comes to stewardship, right? And so you may see a lot of people who are very administrative, they don't play about their time. They understand that these things are time wasters, and I'm not going to play no games with you about wasting my time, because I understand that I must steward this thing well if I want to see the result. If I want to push this baby out in 9 months, I understand that I must properly prepare my body. I understand that I must properly prepare my house. I must properly prepare my mental, because I have an assignment. I'm carrying something on the inside of me, and I'm going to build my family, and I must be properly prepared. If I want to see the thing get birthed out, if I want to see the house fully built, right? So we have this gift of stewardship, and we understand the importance of stewardship, right? Whether that's financial, whether that's human, whether that's materials, we understand the importance of allocating resources wisely. I'm going to talk about Exodus 18 in another video that has all to do with stewarding resources well in the form of people. It also speaks a lot to delegation. I actually just wrote a guest blog about it, and it's so good. And so I can't wait till it's released so I can share it with y'all. And then I'm also going to do some videos on it eventually. And so if someone begins a project, right, and you don't assess the available resources, then you are now risking failure. You are now risking not being able to successfully complete the project. One thing about me, y'all, in school, I hated group projects. I would rather do if it was an option for me to do a project individually or in a group, I'm always going to choose individual. Not because I'm a one-woman show or anything like that. I just understood that if I couldn't choose who was going to be a part of my group, I probably was going to be doing most of the work anyway. I would rather get my grade by myself because I actually put in the work, right? But I'm also aren't going to let you sabotage my end result because you lazy, right? So for that reason, I was never a person who liked to do group projects. I'm like, let me do it by myself. Or if we had to do a group project, I'm that person like, okay, boom. Who serious, who not serious? Okay, you not serious, just stay over there. You gonna get the grade we all get anyway, but just stay over there. Let us get it done and don't be a hindrance, okay? Don't be a hindrance to my straight A's. And so I'm not going to risk failure because you don't understand how to stewardship your time. I'm not going to risk failure because you don't understand how to steward the resources. You don't understand how to steward the knowledge. You don't understand these things. I'm not going to risk failure for that. Okay. And so with kingdom administrators or people who have been called to administrate, lead, build, govern, right? People who are called to be pillars in the house of God. You're also called to steward the resources that God has provided. And you're called to steward these things efficiently and effectively. And you now have to ensure that nothing is mismanaged. The issue in the church is there's a lot of mismanagement of God's resources, whether that's people, whether that's finances. We see throughout the church where there's a lot of mismanagement. And because of that, we need kingdom administrators who are already in this space in the marketplace to arise, right? We need people to arise, and we also need other leaders in different capacities to understand the gift that we are to the kingdom, so that when we're suggesting or recommending a process improvement or a system improvement, you're not brushing us away as if what we're saying, God gave us this. God has given us this gift to use it to manage his resources well. He's given us this gift to help you build well. That's one of the things I love about working with clients who have kingdom visions and kingdom assignments, because here I am with the privilege and the honor to now serve into your vision that God has given you. And even though it's in the marketplace, it's still about his kingdom being built, right? So if I can push the vision and I can support you on the back end, building the business that God has given you, now you can make greater impact. That's why my tagline is how I help the people who I serve, right? Master or maximize their time, scale their impact, and then we get into increasing the revenue, right? But what I first understand is we need to understand the importance of our time. We need to steward our time well so that we can endure. I can't wait to talk to y'all about Exodus. Exodus 18, that thing, we're going to talk about it though. We have to learn how to steward our time so that we can endure. I can't give it to y'all right now. So that we can endure. Just go read Exodus 18 and you're going to get my drift. And so we need to maximize our time so that we can endure. The moment you do not steward your time well is the moment that you begin to burn out. It's the moment that you get overwhelmed. It's the moment that you begin to shut down. It's the moment that you can't fulfill the assignment because you're worn out. And then I help you scale your impact. Now that you've learned how to steward your time well, now that you've learned how to put boundaries in place around your time, now that you've learned how to stop people pleasing, right? Because a lot of times we're saying yes to opportunities because we're people pleasers. And I literally had I was talking to my husband about people pleasing the other day. And I went to the definition because sometimes when people hear people pleasing, they automatically assume, oh, no, I'm not no people pleaser. I'm not a people pleaser. And the truth of the matter is when you begin to understand what it means to people please, it doesn't mean that you kiss and butt and all of those things. It literally means someone who prioritizes the needs and desires of others over your own self, right? Over your needs, over your desires, over the thing that God called you to do, right? And so it's often to the point of self-sacrifice. It's also to the point of burnout. It's also to the point of depression. You start having mental health issues because you're breaking your neck to do things for everybody else and you haven't sat down and drink no water. You haven't eaten in 3 days because you literally is serving everybody else's needs but your own. And so your health is on a decline, but everybody think you good because you supporting everything that they do. That's called people pleasing. It's someone who prioritizes the needs and the desires of someone else over their own. And that's not saying like in a selfish way. That's saying like, hey, if you don't steward your health correctly, you're going to burn out. You're going to die trying to serve everybody else. And then what happens in work, right? And you're 9 to 5. You're doing all of the things. You're not taking no breaks. They're not giving them to you. You ain't saying nothing about them not giving you no break. You working your tail off. You coming up early. You leaving late. And you're wondering why the moment somebody dies at work, their replacement comes in the next 48 hours. It's because if you don't prioritize your own health, somebody got to do the work. It best be you. And so when you are a people pleaser, you struggle with putting boundaries in place around your time, around your priorities, around whatever the case may be for you. When you struggle with people pleasing, you also struggle with saying no. So you're saying yes to everything. Every opportunity that comes your way, you're saying, oh, yes, I can do it, right? Because you're a people pleaser, because you fear of missing out, because you want access or whatever the case may be. Yes, I got to say yes to this. Listen, I know, right? When I was in college, baby, I was going everywhere with everybody. Like, yep, y'all going to Panama? I'm going to Panama too. I'm going to be in Panama City Beach with y'all turned up, okay? Right? A fear of missing out because I could have stayed, but why would I stay? You know what I'm saying? Like this fear of missing out is like, man, I need to be everywhere. I don't want to miss out on no opportunities. I don't want to miss out on no fun. And so we say yes to everything because we lack boundaries. We lack all of the things. And so in this scripture of Luke 14, it's talking about counting the cost, making sure that we're able to finish what we began. It says, lest after he has laid the foundation, he is not able to finish it. And so sometimes it's not even the fact that your foundation is built incorrectly, is that you still didn't count the cost. You didn't properly prepare. And so now the performance has been poor. Okay. And so let me keep going. So we need to steward our resources. Not only that, when someone who has a gift of administration, they usually have a gift of execution, a gift of implementation, a gift of following through. They're very integral people for the most part, right? So even as people who are called to administrate the kingdom, even if that's in the marketplace, you have to be a person of integrity. And I'm going to do a blog about self-integrity. When is it going to come out? I think it's coming out in April. And I'm doing a blog about integrity, right? Because a lot of times we can say yes to people and we can make commitments to people and we're like, I gotta do what I said I was gonna do. I gotta stick to my word, right? Even when nobody is watching, I gotta do what I said I was gonna do. That's integrity. But oftentimes when you said you was gonna wake up and go to the gym, you won't do it, right? When you said you was gonna read all of those pages of that book, you won't do it. You won't have self-integrity. Girl, it's like, I'm recording. So people who have the gift of administration, they understand execution and follow through, right? And so in this scripture, it's literally even warning us about the need to strategic plan, the need to strategically think when we're building something, because once we have the plan, it's easier for us to execute. I was talking to a client, I was like, hey, you're building a whole team. We need the foundation laid. We need the vision. We need the foundation. We need the solid stuff that a business needs to run, because there's no way that you can now go assign something to somebody and you don't even know. We don't know where we're going. By the end of the year, there's no goal set. And so if you're assigning stuff to people, it's only busy work. We understand execution, but if I don't have a vision or a plan, what am I executing on? Even if we go to the scripture Habakkuk, because it just came to my mind. Habakkuk 2:2, I believe. Habakkuk 2:2. We all know the scripture says, write the vision, make it plain so that a herald can run with it. Run in this instance means to execute on it. Write the vision, make it clear so that somebody else can run with it. So somebody else can execute. So somebody else can follow through on it. So somebody else can implement on the vision that you wrote. And so there's a need for execution, implementation, and follow through. And administrators, we carry that gifting to execute. Right? So with a virtual assistant, somebody can come and give you a list of 30 things to do, and you're going to do it because you have a gift of administration and you understand the importance of execution and follow through. Right? And so for ministries, businesses that struggle with launching their ideas, you're struggling to launch a system, or you realize you can launch something, you can build something, you can host this beautiful event, but then people walk away complaining because there was a system that wasn't in place. There was a process that needed to be improved on, and it wasn't improved on, right? A lot of times what you find is CEOs, ministry leaders are the bottleneck, because a lot of people are having to wait on you to get the things so that they can actually execute. What's the solution? An administrator. Okay. Boom. Not only that, an administrator, people who are gifted in administration, they understand the importance of Genesis 1. They understand that without administration, without someone who is in that role, they understand that things are going to be in chaos, that things are going to be in confusion, that things are going to be in disorder, things are going to fail, right? So a lot of times most of the time when you're somebody and you see all these great CEOs, these great businesses, you'll realize they didn't get there by themselves. A lot of them, whether it was their first hire, their third hire, or their seventh hire, they had an administrative assistant, an executive assistant, a virtual assistant on their team, because they realized that if they wanted to go past the level that they were at, they needed someone else on their team who could execute, who could implement, who could follow up and follow through. And so now, because you have an administrator on your team, you're able to avoid the chaos, the confusion that your team has, because they don't understand. They're not clear on the vision. They're not clear on the direction the company is going in. And so there's no alignment. And now the whole team is in disarray because they're like, what is going on? What are we doing here? What are we striving for? And there's nothing there. So a lack of administration, a lack of considering the cost, a lack of counting the cost is going to lead to disorder. It's going to lead to an unfinished work. It says they're going to turn around and be like, you laid the foundation, but you weren't able to finish it. And everybody who looked at it is going to be saying, this man began to build and wasn't able to complete it. It said they're going to look at you and mock you. Right? And so now there's a level of embarrassment that can come because now your business is shut down. There's a level of discouragement that may come. There's going to be this feeling of inadequacy or inefficiency because you didn't properly administrate the thing. There was no proper preparation, and so the poor performance came. Last thing I'll say, for kingdom administrators, if you have been called to administration in whatever capacity that is for you, it requires you to be trustworthy. It requires you to be faithful. It requires you to use your wisdom, right? You have to have a level of wisdom that you can now say something to your client, right? You can say something to the leader because of the gift that's a lot of times the problem with administrators, what we find ourselves doing is shrinking back, because a lot of times we're called to the background and we're comfortable there, maybe because of spirit of fear or whatever. A lot of times it will cause us to not say anything when we see that there's an inefficiency. A lot of times we won't say anything because for whatever reason, and we know that there's a better system. Or maybe it's fear of rejection, or maybe you have experienced rejection when you try to say what you see and people don't see it how you see it because that ain't their gift, right? And so because they didn't implement or execute, like for me, y'all, outside of administration, if I told somebody strategy, if I coached somebody in something, if I gave you advice, and I knew that this thing will work because I've seen it work before, and you did not implement or execute on it, me, myself, I used to be like, I'm not doing this no more. Because I understand the importance of execution. Y'all, I have a Line Week webinar. In the webinar, it's all of the knowledge you need to make sure that you're able to do the things that you said you were going to do to meet your goals, right? It's all about goal alignment. It's all about stewardship of your time, of your resources, so that you can do what you've been called to do, so that you can build, right? It involves you counting the cost, because in order to align your week, there has to be a vision, right? There has to be a written vision that can now be broken down into annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly goals, right? And then now that your vision is aligned with the things that you're doing every single day, now you see that you're now going closer and closer and closer to the goal that you set, right? Now you're making progress on your goals and you're actually seeing results. However, if you come into these sessions, right? So the webinar is all about I teach you how to do this thing. It's me giving you the knowledge. What I'm going to tell you all the time, none of this works if you don't put your hands to the plow. All of the knowledge will not get you to point Z if you never execute on the knowledge that you've been given. All of the tips, all of the strategies, all of the templates, and all of the freebies are not going to support you if you fail to execute. if you fail to properly prepare, right? And so we take it a step further, and I'm like, hey, you've watched the webinar, and you still, it's been 2 weeks since you watched it. You still don't have your align week. You're still not making progress towards your goals. Here's for you, there's a done with you service, right? There's a done with you service. And so let me forecast this because, or that's not the word, but whatever. In school, I used to be a teacher, and we had to follow this model of teaching. I do, we do, you do. And so a lot of times in these webinars and these freebies and these challenges, it's like an I do aspect, right? And so you're teaching some concept, you're teaching some strategy, you're teaching some tip in order to produce a result, right? I'm going to give you all of the information. It's still going to be 100% up to you for you to do it, right? But then there's a part where it goes from me as a teacher teaching this thing to now I'm modeling it for you. I'm doing it with you, right? That's the we do. And so with the Align Week webinar, we get into the Align Week one-on-one sessions. That means you're coming with your vision because I can't do that for you. You're coming with your vision. I'm going to show you how to map this out on the calendar. I'm going to build out your calendar for you. We're going to leave with your calendar built out, but you have to be okay with setting boundaries around your time. You have to come with a vision. And if you say you're going to do X, Y, and Z, you got to put it on your calendar. If you don't put the stuff on your calendar, you won't get it done. Me, if something is not on my calendar, it does not exist to me. It does not exist to me. I tell my husband this almost every other day. If it's not on the calendar, it does not exist. So if I go and put something on the calendar, even though you said in your head, like, oh yeah, I got this, because my thing is on the calendar, it overrides depending on obviously what it is, right? I tell them all the time, it got to go on the calendar. I don't care if it's, hey, we going to the grocery store or something, like the thing got to go on the calendar because I care about my time. I'm going to steward my time well, right? And so we have this we do part. We get on this one-on-one session and we go through your entire calendar from Sunday to Saturday. We're taking into consideration break, lunch, morning routine, evening routine, all of the places you got to be. We're taking into consideration your traveling because a lot of times we don't consider that. And then a lot of times we see people, they only put like their meetings, the time that they're working, certain things on the calendar, but you don't realize that if you do not say, if you say, hey, I'm going to write this book, and you do not put time on your calendar to write the book, you're probably not going to do it because something else may take priority. I got to cut that, Bubby. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up because my child is trying to get this piece and it's not good. Even on this we do, I've done this whole thing for you. What I come to find out, there's still the you do. The you do is where you're doing this independently on your own. That means this calendar is built out for you. It's on your calendar. It's attached to your phone. It's there for you. All of that stuff you can have. And it doesn't matter if you do not execute or implement. You can get into everybody in a mama's coaching program, everybody in a mama's mastermind program. If you do not execute on what's being taught, it does not matter. You wasted your money. You've now mismanaged your finances and their time trying to coach you because you refuse to execute, right? And so with administration, we have this gift of being faithful, this gift of using wisdom, and we understand the importance of counting the cost. Me, when I see people say, hey, I'm hiring for X, Y, and Z, I see a lot of people, and it be a lot of the same people, and they go, and everybody who says they're hiring, they go and post on their post. I'm interested. Me, I count the cost first every single time. You're never going to see me run to a job offering because there's a job offering. I'm going to count the cost. My first thing first, I'm going to go and look at your profile. Why? Because I understand my assignment. If you're someone who practices witchcraft, I'm not here to support you. Years ago, I was working with somebody as a subcontractor, and they had a client that they was working with, and this person was like a yogi or whatever, right? Cool, whatever. Not cool, but whatever. This person was a yogi, and this person wanted me to build out the social media graphics for this client. And me, I'm like, oh, that ain't my forte, right? I'm not doing it. I don't believe in it. I don't agree with it. I won't be doing it. Me, if it was about the money, I would have been like, okay, let me do it. Lord, you know, I need this money though, right? Me, I don't hop on everything. I seen this girl, she posted and she was like, I need this. I'm looking for this person. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me look and see. I'm always going to the profile first. If you got crystal balls as an emoji in your feed, I'm not interested. One of the girls, this girl who I'm talking about, I looked on her thing and she literally in her bio said that she was some kind of a practicing witch. Me, as someone who has been called to administrate the kingdom, I'm not coming to support your witch activities. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Wisdom says count the cost. Yeah, this may be a great opportunity. Yeah, this may be the dream client for you, but count the cost. I literally just saw a post on Threads a couple days ago, and this lady was saying how she had finally got an opportunity to work with her dream client. She had wanted to work with this person forever, and she was like, after a couple weeks, she realized that she had made a horrible decision, right? It's because you allow your desire for this relationship, for this access or whatever, to override you counting the cost, right? So sometimes we can see somebody's job description and they're asking for a gabillion things, and they're saying, I need you to do this, I need you to do this. You know in your mind that this job description is for 3 separate jobs. But because you're desperate or because you want access, you're going to say, okay, I'm willing to do 3 people's job in one for the cost of one person's job because I'm desperate, right? And so with administration, a good administrator is someone who learns how to count the cost. They're not moving and making decisions out of desperation. They're going to also seek the wisdom of God in how they steward their time, how they build relationships. They're going to use wisdom in how they plan, how they prepare, how they execute on all of these things. Like, Lord, I need your wisdom. I cannot do this in my own strength. I could not build this thing in my own strength. If it was up to me, I wouldn't be doing it. But the grace, the strength, the mercies, the wisdom of God supports me in this effort. And so we understand that administration is not just about you being organized, right? Before I knew about a gift of administration, before I knew about any of these things, I knew I was organized. And I knew that if I trace back my history in every single organization I was in, I always wanted to be the secretary, right? I'm like, I'm going to be the secretary. I can take some bomb notes. I can see things. I can suggest systems, and I'm going to do that, right? I always, in every single organization, you can go all the way back to middle school, I was the secretary, right? When I get to the church, this one church I was in, I get to this church, and everybody kept saying, you're so administrative. You're so administrative. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I used to be like, yeah, I'm organized, because I didn't have a revelation of what administration meant, what it entailed, what it looked like. I just knew I was organized. I just knew I could do and see a lot of things. I knew how to properly prepare. I could spot an inefficiency from 10 miles away, and I can also find the solution to the problem, right? I knew that, but people kept saying, you're so administrative. And I honestly got sick and tired of it. I was like, man, I wish y'all stop saying it. Because then I started to, the truth of the matter is, I started to, what's the word? Almost, not hate is too strong of a word, but I almost started to despise, I guess that's the same as hate. I almost started to despise this thing called administration, because I was like, is that all y'all see? Like, that's the only thing you got to compliment me on, is that I'm administrative. Like, and what I realized is the Lord was highlighting this spiritual gift of administration because there was an assignment on my life to administrate his kingdom, right? And so when I stopped being annoyed, that's the word. When I stopped being annoyed about everybody and their mama saying, girl, you're so administrative, I began to grow in administration. I began to learn what that meant. I began to support in the role of an administrative, an executive assistant, to now begin to do the work. 1 second, y'all. And so, y'all, I gotta wrap this up. But going back to the scripture in Luke chapter 14, 28 through 30, it literally teaches us the principle that administration is necessary for building. If you're someone who's like, man, I'm trying to build my business, I want to scale my impact, and I need to now grow, I need to go to my next level, and I'm unable to do that for whatever reason, right? I need you to understand that what you may be lacking is administration. If you're someone who's like, man, I've built this foundation, but I'm having a hard time completing what I'm building, the thing that you may be lacking is administration. If you're someone who's like, man, I'm struggling to count the costs, I'm struggling to consider what I'm coming up against, right? In my efforts of building whatever it is, you may need support with administration, right? A lot of times we're trying to build by ourselves. It's so much chatter on the internet, like your first hire don't need to be an administrator, it needs to be a marketer. Oh, your first hire doesn't need to be a virtual assistant, it needs to be this. Your first hire, according to the principles of God, the first thing they considered when building was administration. And so if you know that that's not your gift, if you know that you're not organized, you know that you're not no administrator, you know that you somebody who just go and do, you're not going to count the cost, you're not going to properly prepare, you barely got a vision and you already building with no vision, no mission, no values, nothing, you just building, right? You're somebody, you like, I'm an executor, but I'm not strategic in my execution. You probably need an administrator on your team, someone who literally can support you in your efforts of building so there is sustainability. We're going to talk about that too. If y'all not on my email list for my blogs, go read my blogs because a lot of this is going to be coming out in my blogs. I'll leave y'all with this. Without proper planning, without execution, businesses, ministries, organizations, you risk failing before you for real start, before you even reach your full potential because you're lacking administration. And so if you're somebody like, girl, that's me, holla at your girl, period. If you're someone who's like, I need support in administration, if I want to go to the next level, if I want to actually fulfill feel the potential that I know that's on the inside of me, I need support, I need help, I need someone to help me organize all of this stuff. I need somebody to help me with the planning of and the execution of all of this stuff. Go to my website, www.theempireeffectagency.com. And you can see all of the services that I offer. My main service is executive assistance, and then I also support with online business management and operations. If you need more so of the systems and all of the things like that. And so I will be happy to support you. And of course, we gonna see if we're a good fit, okay? So I hope y'all have a wonderful day. I will see y'all in the next video.